Let's get to work, shall we?
Long before FROMSOFT rose to the top of the gaming world with their Soul series, I knew them purely for the third-person shooter, Armored Core. It's been a long while since the last entry in this series, with the developer focusing on their groundbreaking dark fantasy titles. But the towering mechs are back, and they're better than ever. For those unfamiliar, it's a mission shooter title. You drop into each stage with a particular goal to finish it, simple as that. There's no sprawling open world here, but several of the maps are quite large and layered for players to explore. I personally really like the decision to keep it going with the more traditional style. So many games these days have persistent open world structures that I really miss that dopamine hit of seeing mission complete and fade to black. Armored Core has a bit of a reputation in the gaming world. A hardcore mech shooter with a distinct emphasis on customization to tailor the game to your personal taste. This definitely returns in spades, much to my enjoyment. Choosing the various parts and weapons of your machine changes not only its combat capabilities, but also movement and background stats that you're working with. From the start, you're thrown into the battlefield with a limited amount of options. Just as you'd expect, the deeper you go into the game, the more options become available. The variety of weapons in this game might be less than some previous entries, but there's a lot more uniqueness spread among them. Each feels different, even in the same category, so this is a huge plus. Not to mention some of the wild hidden ones among the game's missions. The weapon types are definitely set up for your preference over pure instances of specific weapons being the only option. I love this philosophy in the game because it leans on the concept of customization and personalization in the design choices. That said, there are definitely some strategies and methods that can cheese out certain situations, or feel like the best option to just push through things. Looking at you, Mr. Grenade Launcher. Personally, for my first playthrough, I went for laser weapons. No particular reason, but I enjoyed using them throughout the game. I was able to push through most of the game with these weapons alone, and I personally really liked the look and feel, which made the experience all the more special. The parts of the mech also matter, not just visually, but for the various functions and functionality too. Making a balanced machine isn't just about not being overweight, but also one that can incorporate your weapons and movement style is the key to success. Thankfully, this process is a bit easier than previous entries, with more streamlined explanations to focus down on certain types of gameplay that you're trying to achieve. Various parts affect different things, like the heads affecting scanning range, or legs with their movement type. The legs in particular make all the difference this time around. Before, it was just overall health and movement speed, but now they have hugely different functions too. Reverse joint legs have resource-free large jumps, tank legs don't have recoil on large weapons, tetrapods can hover, and so on. They all are distinct and fun to experiment with. To complement all of this are the game's other mechanics. Using things like overboost to speed around the map and close gaps between enemies, melee weapons having 2 or more attacks, being able to unlock extra functions like assault armor or weapon base for swapping are all great. Personally, the overboost kick is my favorite addition and really useful to take out grunts or do huge amounts of stagger damage to bosses. They are small additions, but they really did a lot to add to the experience.
Target destroyed. Concluding analysis. Well done.
You'll be going in under cover of darkness. Be ready for anything.
Once you're all set, the mission structure of AC6 is quite simple. Once you begin, your target goals are set and you proceed, going through the various obstacles and enemies along the way until you complete the mission. Of course, nothing is quite that simple thanks to a variety of enemies and sometimes sudden appearances of other challenges. Missions can also vary quite a lot in length. Some missions are only a few minutes long, while others devolve into 20-minute struggles of survival. I love this mostly because the longer missions felt really rewarding and had lots of good exploration and natural acceleration of events within them. Not to mention, on a replay, the longer missions can be completed quite quickly once you know the situation. Gameplay in AC is a third-person shooter, like I said. Most of the time you'll take out lots of small fry enemies with a variety of rifles, missiles, and all manner of futuristic weapons. There's quite a variety to melee weapons too, like laser blades, chainsaws, and my personal favorite, the explosive thrower. When taking down normal enemies, the gameplay can be quite chill and methodical if need be, but on average, these are made to be weak to keep the game's pace fairly quick. You'll take a need to explore and get a read of the environment occasionally, but the combat here is meant to be quick and brutal. Thankfully, Armored Core 6 is an extremely responsive game with tight controls meant to keep the player engaged. Depending on your taste and build, the game's feel can vary quite a lot, but it always retains that sense of perfect, complete control, even as you're boosting around looking for that perfect angle of attack. While you zoom around blasting enemies with 1 or 2 hits, occasionally you'll have to quick boost to dodge a heavy attack. These are highlighted with red squares to let you know something big is coming, but getting the timing down is up to the player. It's quite nice to see it implemented so heavily this time around, other than just kind of a nice gimmick like before. Now, enemies can be stunned by repeatedly hitting them at the optimal range. For small enemies, this is nothing, but for larger ones, it's key to winning. Building up that stun meter is something that appears in dozens of games these days, but as always, it's really satisfying to break that meter and cause huge amounts of damage. Where things get downright rabid though, are when enemy AC or bosses appear. These are fast-paced slugfests of reactions to huge, seemingly impossible to dodge attacks and all-out weapon fire to stun them for maximum damage. Seriously, these are so chaotic and wild that it almost feels like a completely different game, but it makes them all the more satisfying because of it. Where things do get tricky though are some of the bosses. Most missions end once an objective or key enemy AC has been defeated. Sometimes though, AC6 has a small variety of truly hardcore bosses, and some of them are designed to be that good old-fashioned FROMSOFT get good. 2 of these in particular were hardcore walls to the experience. While never hitting that this is impossible level, their designs and styles were so opposed to the usual encounters that it almost felt that way. Thankfully, AC6 is pretty generous with its checkpoints, so retries are pretty easy. Even better, you get the ability to change out parts before trying all over again, to cover weaknesses or unexpected enemy appearances. That said, Chapter 1 and 4's end bosses took a lot of retries, and I would encourage everyone to keep at it once they appear, especially Chapter 4.
Aptitude Evaluation Program number 26, entering rank E. Subject AC, Bitter Promise, call sign, no Zark.
The arena also returns, featuring unique enemy ACs to fight. Beating them provides rewards of money and chips. Climbing the ranks is optional, but it only takes about a minute or so to complete each fight. Sadly, the AI here is quite weak, and only some of these might put up a real fight, depending on what you build. But the variety in them is pretty nice, not to mention the awesome AC names. Chips from the arena are used to unlock features for your machine or their passive buffs. For example, you can unlock boost kick, weapon base, assault armor, and more here. It seemed a bit weird at first to have to choose some of these options because they were just really good gameplay features, but it's neat to earn them. The passives are for overall damage or defense buffs, and things like repair. It's a cool way to streamline a build, and the chips can be redistributed at any time for a small cost.
And here I thought I'd just make some extra scratch. Guess I can settle the score at the same time.
We play as an unnamed mercenary sneaking onto the planet Rubicon with our titular mech and armored core. For getting missions from our handler Walter, towards some unknown true objective other than getting money. As an independent, we join up with various factions owing no true alliance to anyone. But it doesn't take long before it becomes obvious that Rubicon might be a bit more special than we thought, and the people fighting over it have more than profit in their minds. You meet a variety of people throughout your missions and take on their interests for profit, but looking a little closer at the arena profiles will tell you a lot more about your enemies or friends throughout the game. One of the coolest points about this story are the 3 different endings. Depending on a few different branching paths, you'll get a different result. These are pretty well telegraphed, thankfully, so subsequent playthroughs to see everything are easily highlighted. Once the story is cleared, you automatically are tossed into a New Game Plus. You can replay all the missions that you did the first time as well, and you have access to all the unlocked parts. Where things get interesting though are the main missions. Instead of proceeding as usual, some missions actually feature new branching moments, as well as new missions entirely. It makes the game worth seeing multiple times so you can blast through previous challenging moments and encounter completely new ones. And then there is multiplayer. While I had a lot of trouble connecting to anyone the first weekend, the first few matches I got were rather entertaining. There's no major rewards for doing PvP other than fun and to see everyone else's builds, and sadly there's no co-op in this game for main missions. I really feel like this is a massively missed opportunity. A huge complaint I have about this game though is the camera. It's fine enough for normal encounters, but as soon as an enemy AC or major boss appears, it becomes a wild beast. Especially the boss battles, because almost all of them move quickly to get around you. It can make things quite frustrating and a little nauseating to fight. Also, I just want to mention that this game looks genuinely awesome most of the time. Sure, there are some less than stellar looking points being a cross-gen title and all, but in general, this game looks great. Its mechanical world is mysterious while also being familiar despite its futuristic setting. The views of distant structures that almost seem impossible to be man-made are intricate but baffling in their style. A lot of work went into making AC6 look the way it does, and not to mention the ACs themselves have a ton of juicy details for us mech heads to gush over. In all, I can only sing Armored Core 6's praises. I was admittedly worried when this game was announced that it would try some other new direction that I wouldn't like. I'm extremely happy that this game checked all of the boxes that I hoped it would, and more that I didn't expect, like the extra combat mechanics, to make this, honestly, one of my favorites in the series. The variety in builds and their effect on gameplay are a serious highlight, so for those who enjoy trying out different equipment and having genuine gameplay implications instead of just seeing numbers go up, AC6 might be the game for you. The mission-based nature of the game makes it really easy to jump in and out of for quick progress. Some of the bosses will throw you for a loop, but perseverance and willingness to retry or rethink situations was a rewarding part of the experience for me. Personally, I loved AC6 and everything it brought to the table for both old fans and new ones. If you're a fellow mech lover and an AC OG fan, this is right up our alley and a must-play. However, if I'm being honest, this is a gamery-ass gamer game, and it pushes the player quite a lot at times. Armored Core 6 isn't FROMSOFT's next soulless experience, it's Armored Core. There are no compromises here to make it anything other than what it is, and I loved it for that. I gotta give Armored Core 6 a 9 out of 10. It's the pure Armored Core experience I was hoping and dreaming of all of this time. But that's going to be it for this review. Please like, sub, follow, ring the bell, and leave comments down below. Did you enjoy Armored Core 6? Did you hate it? Were you hoping it was going to be more Souls-like? What did you think going into it? Are you an OG fan like me? Let's talk about it down below, and I hope to see you again next time. Have a good day.
Looks like I was a little off. Well, close enough is good enough for me.
Raven. They really are like fireworks.